I never saw my grandfather drink oil from a bottle, not once, but every morning before the sun cleared the hills, he would eat a handful of seeds, small, brown, hard seeds that smelled faintly of earth and something else I couldn't name. He never explained why. He just did it. And when I asked my grandmother, she said, "That's what keeps him walking." I'm 97 years old now, and I still remember the texture of those seeds between my teeth. People ask me why I never needed glasses until I was 90, why my joints bent without grinding, why my skin even now doesn't crack like old paper. I tell them the truth. I ate what my grandparents ate, and one of those things was hemp seed. Not the plant people argue about today. Not the version governments panic over, just the seed, the ancient seed, the one that grew in dry soil, needed almost no water, and fed entire villages when nothing else would. But somewhere along the way, the world decided it was dangerous. I grew up in a place where rain was a gift, not a promise. The land was hard. Crops failed often, but hemp never did. It grew in poor soil, in heat, in drought. My father planted it along the edges of our field, not because it was valuable, but because it was reliable. The stalks became rope, the fibers became cloth, and the seeds, those small, humble seeds, became food. We didn't call them a superfood. We didn't know what omega-3 was. We just knew that people who ate them stayed strong longer. Every morning, my grandmother would grind a handful into paste and mix it with a little yogurt or honey. Sometimes she'd toast them lightly and sprinkle them over flatbread. The taste was nutty, earthy, almost buttery. You didn't eat them for pleasure. You ate them because your body asked for them. And your body remembered. It wasn't until I was much older, long after I'd left the village, long after I'd seen cities and hospitals and pharmacy shelves stacked with colorful bottles, that I learned what was inside those seeds. A doctor once told me that hemp seeds contain more omega-3 fatty acids than a dozen pieces of salmon. I didn't believe him at first. How could a dry seed, grown without water, without chemicals, without care, hold more nutrition than a fish raised in cold oceans? But it's true. The seed contains alpha-linolenic acid, the plant form of omega-3. It also contains gamma-linolenic acid, something most foods don't have at all. Your body uses these fats to build cell walls, to calm inflammation, to protect your brain and heart. Modern supplements try to isolate them, but the seed gave them to you whole, balanced, exactly as your body expected. We never isolated anything. We just ate the seed. Hemp also grows without asking for much. It doesn't need pesticides. It doesn't need fertilizers. It doesn't even need much water. In a world where farmers flood fields and drain rivers to grow almonds and rice, hemp grows almost by itself. The plant pulls toxins from the soil, enriches the earth, and leaves the land better than it found it. My father used to say, "A plant that doesn't need you is a plant you can trust." He was right. But in the 1960s, something changed. Governments around the world began to classify hemp as a controlled substance, not because of the seed, not because of the fiber, but because of fear. Fear that industrial hemp could be confused with its psychoactive cousin. Fear that farmers could hide one plant among the other. Fear that control would be lost. And so the United Nations placed restrictions on hemp cultivation. Trade slowed. Fields were abandoned. Seeds that had fed people for thousands of years became illegal to grow in many countries without licenses, inspections, paperwork. The seed didn't change. The law did. I remember the first time I saw fish oil capsules in a pharmacy. Big golden pills in plastic bottles. The label said they were rich in omega-3. Good for your heart, good for your brain, essential. I thought of my grandmother's seeds. Those capsules cost more than a week of vegetables. They came from fish caught in distant oceans, processed in factories, sealed in gelatin, shipped across continents. They were convenient, they were modern, they were expensive, and they replaced something that grew in the dirt outside your door. I'm not saying fish oil is bad. I'm saying we forgot we had something better, something simpler, something that didn't require an industry. I ate hemp seeds almost every day of my life until I moved to the city. In the city, no one sold them. No one knew what they were. When I mentioned them, people looked confused, even nervous. "Isn't that illegal?" they'd ask. I stopped trying to explain, but my body noticed the difference. In my 60s, my knees began to ache in the mornings. My skin became drier. I felt a kind of stiffness I'd never felt before. Doctors said it was normal, aging, inflammation. They offered me pills, anti-inflammatories, joint supplements, creams. I took them for a while. They helped barely. Then one summer I returned to the village. My cousin still grew hemp along the back of her garden. She gave me a jar of seeds, toasted and salted. I ate a tablespoon every morning, just like I used to. Within 2 months, the stiffness eased. My knees quieted. My skin softened again. Nothing dramatic, nothing sudden, just a slow return to balance. Modern science now knows why. Hemp seeds contain not just omega-3, but also omega-6 in a rare and perfect ratio, roughly 3-to-1. Your body needs both, but in balance. Most modern diets are flooded with omega-6 from vegetable oils, processed foods, fried snacks. This creates inflammation, stiffness, pain. Hemp seeds correct that balance naturally. They also contain all 9 essential amino acids, making them a complete protein. They're rich in magnesium, which most people lack. They contain vitamin E, zinc, iron. They support your heart, your skin, your gut, your brain, And they did all of this long before we had the science to measure it. The elders didn't need studies. They had observation. They had generations. They had results. But hemp was never patented. It was never bottled. It couldn't be controlled, branded, or sold at a markup. And so it was easier to replace it, easier to criminalize it, easier to make people forget. I'm not accusing anyone, I'm just noticing. The same governments that restricted hemp now promote flaxseed, chia, fish oil, all valuable, yes, but none as efficient, none as sustainable. Flax needs processing to release its omega-3. Chia is expensive and imported. Fish oil depends on overfished oceans. Hemp needed nothing but dirt and sun, and it was banned. I don't believe the world is run by villains. I think it's run by systems that prefer control over simplicity, systems that profit from complexity, systems that forget what worked because it didn't fit the model. But the body doesn't care about models. The body cares about what works. And for thousands of years, this seed worked. I still eat hemp seeds now. They're legal again in many places, though still restricted in others. You can buy them in health stores, usually in small bags, often expensive. They're labeled as a superfood, which makes me smile. We never called them that. We just called them food. I eat a tablespoon most mornings, sometimes 2. I mix them into oatmeal or yogurt or eat them plain. My doctor says my cholesterol is better than most 50-year-olds. My inflammation markers are low. My mind is still sharp. I'm not special. I just didn't stop eating what my body recognized. People today are told to take pills for everything, for sleep, for mood, for energy, for inflammation, for memory. I'm not against medicine. Medicine saved my daughter's life once. I'm grateful for that. But I also noticed that many of the pills are just concentrated versions of what plants already gave us. Omega-3 from seeds, antioxidants from berries, fiber from grains, probiotics from fermented foods. We took the plants apart, put them in capsules, and sold them back to ourselves. And we made it illegal to grow the original. I don't know if I'll live to see hemp grown freely again, the way it was when I was young. I don't know if people will remember that food was medicine before medicine became food. But I do know this: the body is wiser than we think. It remembers what it needs. And if you give it the same things your ancestors gave it, simple, whole, unprocessed, it will thank you quietly. Not loudly, not with miracles, just with time. I am 97 years old. I've watched the world speed up, complicate itself, panic over things it once knew how to do. I've seen seeds become controlled substances and water become privatized. I've seen people spend fortunes on health while ignoring the soil beneath their feet. And through it all, I kept eating what my grandmother ate. Not because I was wise, but because I was stubborn. And maybe, in the end, that's the same thing. I didn't try to live longer. I just didn't interfere. I let my body do what it knew how to do. I fed it what it recognized. I moved it. I rested it. I trusted it. And it carried me here, not in perfection, but in wholeness. That's all any of us can ask for.